Croeso, hello, welcome to RobRyanRed, the Wrexham podcast brought to you in association with Red 10 People Development. Or should that be Rob Ryan Red Carpet? While I'm in the foothills of Manchester still, Nathan has gone from Paris to Sardinia. Although, Nath, if anyone's watching this on YouTube, you look like my lawyer representing me on sort of a Zoom call from prison because I'm wearing a tracksuit top and you are suited and booted still.
I'm a fancy boy, as you know by now. I love to wear suits, so any excuse to wear a suit, and I got to wear them a lot out here in Sardinia, less so in Paris a few days ago. But I'm a jet-setting lawyer now, apparently, and I'm in a. Unfortunately, I wanted to do it where I could show you the foothills of Sardinia. Instead, I'm in a hotel room here in Sardinia. So delighted to be on, mate. I wouldn't miss a podcast for the world. You know that.
I hope it's no win, no fee, because I'm not paying you any more than you're getting for the podcast in the first place. And Nave, you mentioned that, it's good to do a podcast again. Spoiler alert, not much has happened since our last record. Of course, we had Peter Moore on that. Thank you very much to everyone who tuned in. Thank you for all the feedback on that. And again, we know this is a podcast first and foremost, but thank you to everyone who is watching on YouTube. That's really good to see. Thank you very much if you haven't already. Subscribe there, RobRyanRed on all the socials. Nath, it's been, like we said, a bit of a slow burner of a week. Wrexham still starting to put together their summer plans. They won't rush into anything. Whenever people are messaging us saying, what's happening with transfers? You've got to point back to last summer when George Evans and Arthur Okonkwo both joined in the last few days of the window. Wrexham don't want to be jumping into deals willy-nilly. They want to see who is out there first before they start making their moves. And I guess it is just frustrating that it is the same old story. And, it's probably going to be a few weeks yet until we do get that transfer movement that everyone's desperate for.
Makes me laugh that last week we said it was a quiet week, and the week before I think we said it was a quiet week, and then now Wrexham are like, let's really test these lads out and give them absolutely nothing. Pitch has been relayed. Yeah, Parky said himself, as I've said previously, and I'll reiterate, routine inquiries at this stage. I think there's a tendency, and I fell into this trap a little bit recently when I was looking at Rotherham, and we're talking a bit about League One predictions, weren't we? And we'll do them just before the start of the season when we've got a better sense of the squads, Rich. I think, I saw Sean Raggett go to Rotherham and Johnson Clark-Harris, and players that will be top-end League One, and, they'll be really, really good. And Joe Rafferty as well. I know we weren't interested in him and we spoke about that, but yeah, he is clearly a very good player at League One level. Just gone up with Portsmouth, as is Raggett. And you kind of get sucked into that feeling of, Rotherham are getting all these great players. Are we missing out? And you see Mansfield have already gone and bolstered their attack with Lee Gregory. Wrexham already had a very good
signed
squad.
Jay Mingy as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
A player that Wrexham were linked with 2-3 years ago. It was back when we were in non-league and he was at Maidenhead, was he? Or Portsmouth there? I can't quite remember.
Right.
But I suppose that's the other problem, isn't it? That when another team makes moves in the window, it's always like, when's our turn? When are we going to buy players? And Wrexham won't feel that pressure. The people making the decisions won't feel pressurised into getting sort of active in the window. But from a supporter's point of view, you can be very impatient, can't you? Particularly when your rivals are already strengthening their squads that were very strong last season.
It's probably like if I post a picture in Paris and then Sardinia and you are getting Chloe nudging you saying, when are you going on holiday? You always want what you haven't got, basically.
Well, we're going to Vancouver, aren't we? Me and you. There's my holiday.
And also, so many people offering to help us out in Vancouver. Genuinely, from myself and Rich, we really, really appreciate that. I'm sure it'll be a great time. I saw someone suggest, Rich, that we even try and swindle a favour from Peter Moore to get us into the EA Performance Lab in Vancouver, which would be very, very good. Let's see what happens. It'll be a good, fun all round.
Peter, if you're listening, get me in the game.
Get us in the game. Imagine if we had like RobRyanRed in the game. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, but yeah, you can get bogged down by, and again, Jay Mingy. Wrexham fans always love saying, "Oh, we were linked with that player years and years ago." We've been linked with so many players, and we'll continue to be linked with so many players. Jay Mingy's a good player. We'll see how he gets on. For me, the real head spinner will be Stockport go and get Louis Barry, which I know there's been a lot of talk about, but until I see that permanent dotted line, I'm not so sure I'm buying it. And if it happens, it happens. But look, Wrexham are still working away on Arthur. They're still working away on other players. I mean, Parky's on a holiday this week, a deserved one, we should say, and he's having a break. He's having more of a break than I am in Sardinia, traipsing around after Kylian Mbappe and Cesc Fabregas. But
you make it sound so hard.
Oh, it's a
Boo-hoo,
hard
the
life.
life of a journalist, yeah.
It's a hard life, and also nobody wanted to speak to me. Not about Wrexham, not about nothing. Although I was in a taxi going to, so it's in one of the most famous hotels where they had the event in Italy, in Sardinia, and I got a taxi
Premier
with some
Inn.
other. And I got a taxi with some other journalists from Gazzetta dello Sport and Tuttosport in Italy, two of the biggest newspapers in Italy, and they didn't speak much English, but I said, "Oh, I'm from Wales," and genuinely, the guy who was next to me referenced two places. He said Cardiff, I said no, and he said Wrexham as the second place. Now
We're
maybe
on the
that
map.
sounds. We're on the map. I was thinking that's unbelievable. He was like, "Ah, Wrexham,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Yeah,
Well, it used to
Wrexham."
be the stereotypical sort of holiday chat, didn't it? When you go on holiday, you'd say, I'm from Wales, and they'd say Gareth Bale. They'd maybe say Charlotte Church, Tom Jones, but Gareth Bale was your sort of football in, wasn't he there? But now you can go around the world and say, I'm from Wales. Oh, Wrexham. Yeah, Robin Ryan. I had this the other couple of months, maybe half a year ago, actually, when I was speaking to a football agent from the other side of the world. And maybe it was longer ago, actually, because otherwise this sounds really stupid. Maybe it was like 2 years ago, actually, now I think about it. But I was like, oh, I'm from Wrexham. Have you heard of Wrexham? And he went, of course I beeping have. Like, of
Oh
course I've
right.
heard of them now. Like, everyone that I can't get away from Wrexham is kind of more his point. He wasn't as open to talking about the club as I was. So, yeah, we're on the map. That's all that matters. But yeah, like you said, Nate, transfers will come in time, and we're getting there. And of course, when we hear stuff, you will find out about it on RobRyanRed on all the socials and all that, and of course on the podcast as well. But I suppose the other element as well, Nath, is just where do we improve first of all? Because you are only going to have a finite budget, aren't you, for next year? And I guess even when you go into recruitment, you need to know exactly who you're signing a player for. Are we signing a player for a mid-table push? What are you selling them? Or are you saying, look, we're signing someone to go again? I saw there was a interview with Ben Foster this week, and he's expecting Wrexham to spend very big in League One. He says we're going to have a right go at it. Do you buy that mentality then? Or I feel like in the past we've both said that it's probably going to be a season of consolidation.
I think they'll have a go. That doesn't necessarily mean it won't be a season of consolidation. I think they'll have a go. I think they'll make some moves. If they go and get Arthur, which I don't think they will, but until he signs elsewhere, obviously that remains an open possibility. I think they're going to go for it. I was looking, Rich, today actually. I was chatting to a few people in the game, not in FIFA, in the actual real life game, and Karamoko Dembele, who Celtic, was a wonder kid at Celtic and had a very good spell with Blackpool last season. And lots of League One clubs are on red alert for him this summer. And Wrexham weren't among the names that were in the mix for him, but hey, I wouldn't mind someone like that. A real flair player that is just super exciting. They're the kind of players that can get you off your seat. And okay, yes, you've already got Elliot Lee, and yes, you've got people like Andy Cannon, but sometimes a young player, a live wire, something a bit different, that can be a game changer. And Blackpool only just missed out on the playoffs last season, so he clearly, was no scrub for them. I'm just intrigued. I know people like the sexy rumours, and we could come on here and make some up, Rich, really, and people would
Let's
like
do
it,
it.
but
It is a quiet week.
it's not our style. It's not our style. We are going to tell you what we know to be true, or we have on good authority, and what I would say in terms of where we need to improve. Go back, is it 2 weeks now, where we did a real in-depth look at the squad depth chart, and that's on YouTube and obviously in Spotify and Apple and everywhere. And I think that was probably we don't need to go over all ground. I know people listen every week, and I don't really want to go over that, but you could clearly see there were areas, specifically I felt like in defensive midfield and at centre back, areas of real potential weakness. Really, if you think about injuries, me and you have both written a lot, Rich, about Man United and the amount of injuries they've suffered. Now, if that happened in the EFL, we'd be turning out for Wrexham if they had the amount of injuries Man United have had. You don't. What did they say? They used to tell me in Scouts? Is it fail to prepare,
In
prepare to fail?
Scouts,
I did
I
Scouts
was not
back in the
expecting
day. Yeah,
Scouts.
I did Scouts back in the day, and I think they would say in that, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. So I know that won't be an issue with Wrexham. I know they will go out and sign a couple of centre backs. And while we're on centre backs, very quickly, congratulations to Aaron Hayden. I don't know if we said that last week, but back to Carlisle, familiar home. Maybe we did. I'm in Sardinia. I'm drunk with the sea air, so I don't know. But if we didn't, then congratulations and all the best to Aaron Hayden up in Carlisle.
I was also going to say, what do you have any notable scout badges you got?
I think I got all the. I think I got all the badges. I
Did you get the podcast badge?
No, I don't think we had a podcast studio at the hut in Monadissa where I was a scout. I did scouts and cubs, and we used to go on. Used to go on the excursions where I can't even get the word. Excursions where you'd go to tents and you get your orienteering badge, and I've probably still got it at home somewhere, not here in Sardinia, but I probably got the sash with it. You used to have a sash and it'd have all the badges on, and I was
Are we
yeah, I
going to
was such an
do one of these really cheesy, like, if this hits 400 likes, Nath will wear his sash next week, sort of YouTube video?
I don't think it. Well, why am I going to pretend it doesn't fit me? I'm still a very, very small human being. It probably would if I find it. If I ever go back home in the coming weeks and I find it, I'll dig it out. My parents will listen. They'll dig it out. But yeah, scout. I think I got all the badges, mate. I must have got almost all of them. I did that. So were you not a scout or a cub or nothing?
No.
No,
I was just a mountain man, wasn't I? No, I
Mountain
lived in
man.
the hills, so I didn't have to pretend. I wasn't from the metropolis of Monavissa. Do you know what I mean? I didn't have shops nearby, so yeah, you just fended for yourselves.
RobRyanRed in League One.
We do feel like we've gone off a tangent here.
Yes.
The other point we were going to talk about this week was an interesting one because we've mentioned before different supporters groups, and if you're not part of one now, highly recommend you join them. They're really good fun, really good for going to games together and just having that even sort of inner circle of a community. So you might be a Wrexham fan, but then you might be a London Red, you might be, as we're going to get onto, a Manchester Red, a Shropshire Red, Malden District Reds as well. We're ticking all the boxes here. But in the Manchester Reds group chat, there are a lot of messages that get put in there, and a lot of them are not of broadcast standard, and a lot of them would end up with liable lawsuits against us. However, there was a very interesting point made this week, and that is that the Wales squad was obviously announced by Rob Page, and 3 youngsters were added to the squad ahead of their matches next week against Gibraltar and Slovakia. So Wales, obviously, we don't have that many plans this summer other than supporting 31 teams who are playing, against England. But Wales squad, Paul Mullin is always the elephant in the room. I personally think the time has been and gone for Paul Mullin to get this Wales call up, and that was the crux of the chat now. Since we last recorded as well, Paul Mullin won the fan vote for League 2 Player of the Year. He was Wrexham's Player of the Year. Rob Page said a year ago, I will judge Paul Mullin on whether he can do it in the Football League. Paul Mullin got promoted with Wrexham, was one of the best players in League 2. He is quite clearly of Football League standard. We will see next season how well he sort of ranks up at League One standard, but of course he's going to score goals. This is what Paul Mullin does. Nath, the question, I was going to say short and simple. I've just been speaking for 2 minutes. Have we seen the last opportunity now for Paul Mullin to earn a Wales call-up, given that it's a friendly, an absolute dead rubber friendly against Gibraltar? Surely if there was ever a game for him to play, it would have been that one.
I don't think Rob Page has got any real desire. I don't think that maybe desire is wrong. I don't think he's got any real plan to give Paul Mullin a Wales cap. I just don't believe it. I think he's had ample opportunities to do so previously, in my opinion. He's elected not to do it. He's paid the lip service when they played in Wrexham that he was being considered, and then Mullin went on stage, didn't he, to Ben Foster a few days later and said, first I've heard of it, I didn't get consulted or anything. I just think Rob Page has tried to fend off the critics with some simple lip service, and he's going to get found out. He's saying one thing, Mullin's achieving what he set out, go and perform in the Football League, performs in the Football League, would have been top scorer had he played the full season, but obviously punctured his lung, and that'll do it. You won't get top scorer with that.
There was another stat that was put in the group, Nath, that I've not double-checked this, that Taylor put in the group, but he said Paul Mullin scored as many goals as the rest of Wrexham strikers combined this season. And that's considering he had the injury that kept him sidelined for so long. Paul Mullin finished with 24 goals.
I mean, we're talking Jake Bickerstaff, who probably got a handful at most, less than a handful. Billy Waters, who didn't get any. Sam Dolby, who only got a couple. Ollie Palmer didn't get many. Stephen Fletcher only got a handful, I want to say. I believe it. I don't know I haven't checked Taylor's stats, but good on him. I think that's probably bob on. That's probably
Yeah.
bob
Well,
on.
that's the point, isn't it? I mean, particularly as well when we're talking. I mean, if you listen to this podcast, you don't follow the Welsh national team too closely anyway. It's not as if a League One player being called up, which Paul Mullin is now, would ever really be a shock. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we've had, I think, was Joe Morrell playing there when he was at Lincoln? Will Vokes was there when he was maybe after Cardiff. Can't quite remember. But there are lots of players who've played lower league football and been called up to the Wales
Well,
squad. So
Rich was Nathan Broadhead in there with Ipswich? Was he before they're back to back or whatever?
yes,
So
yeah, well, yeah, that goal against Croatia would have been just after they got promoted to the Championship, probably. So it would have been a League One striker, and yeah, it just does seem odd that they're not taking a look at him, because the other argument would be, look, we'll only ever know if Paul Mullen's good enough for Wales if he plays for Wales, and there's 2 games coming up where there isn't anything right on it. They are both friendly matches. Paul Paul deserves a holiday anyway. He has the right to maybe turn down the call if he wanted it anyway. But surely, if there was ever a chance, even just to appease the Gogs and say, "Look, we've given the Wrexham lad a chance," then that's the chance.
what I don't get is what's the harm in a game that has zero significance? It'd be significant for Mullin if he got to turn up for Wales, but generally the game's got zero significance. And what I will say is I think Mullin would like it, but I don't think he craves it. I really think that he is, totally dedicated to the cause in terms of the club football. Yes, it'd be a nice bonus, but every time I hear him speak, I really don't think he's losing too much sleep over the Wales call. That I don't think will ever come for him, unfortunately. I don't think under Rob Page's management he's going to go with it, because he's still going to pick Broadhead, he's still going to pick Moore. He's probably going to try and look at these youngsters that have come in now. I just can't see it. And that's unfortunate, because I think Mullin has earned the right to have a crack at earn the right to play Gibraltar. What am I talking about?
I mean, yeah, if you look at the Gibraltar squad, he's more than his right probably to play against them, which I know is probably disrespectful, but I mean, here's one of the things I like about Gibraltar is there is a under-18 kid for United, James Scanlon, who had only ever trained with the United first team once, and he made his Gibraltar debut last international break. So if they've got Man United under-18s playing for them at Gibraltar, then of course Paul Mullin's worthy of sharing the pitch with them. I will also say as well, here's an education tip for anyone North American or worldwide listeners. Gogs is a reference to Gog-led Cymru, Northerners. Bit of lingo there for you. I mean, maybe we should have this on the website, Nate. Maybe we should have some terminology. How to fit into Welsh lingo, like they do on the dock, I suppose, to a point. So yeah, we are proud, sort of, from Gog-led Cymru, North Wales, and yeah, that's a little bit of a vocabulary for you if you're listening worldwide. But looks like Paul Mullin, if not now, when will he get this Wales call up? And of course, the other issue now is the next international break will be World Cup qualifiers after the European Championship, so the stakes are even higher then. And if Wrexham are doing well in League One, would Paul Mullin even want to sort of be a bit part of a squad when he's the key man, for a League One team chasing promotion? It's an interesting situation, but yeah, it does just feel like that chance is gone, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And who knows? You never know what the future holds, Rich. So let's see. Smash League One, Paul, if you listen to this or anyone points it out to you, and never say never. Right, Rich, the documentary. Very, very moved I was this week, I have to say.
Some more vocab there. Also short for documentary.
Yes, also short for doctor, but in this case, documentary. I'm no shame to say I was very choked up in the airport, in Charles de Gaulle Airport, waiting for my flight back to the UK from Paris. I found it incredibly moving. I just thought that everything about it. Arthur Massey, the 100-year-old fan, Rob visiting him.
We got a good email, didn't we, on Arthur Massey?
Go ahead. You got it? You got it to hand?
Yes, I have. I think I've. Thanks for
good.
Why I shouldn't have interjected, because I wasn't ready either. We got.
What we got?
We got an email from Chris Moxey, who simply just emailed in and says, when Arthur was describing his first Wrexham game in the latest episode of the documentary, it occurred to me that he's almost certainly the only person to have seen Tommy Bamford and Paul Mullin play for Wrexham.
Wow.
Would love to know his thoughts on both, but also he would love to know anyone else out there. Do you know anyone else who saw Bamford and Mullin play? If you do, RobRyanRed@gmail.com, RobRyanRed, contact us, or any other socials. But email is usually the best way for us to have it for the podcast because it's so handy. But yeah, so Arthur was one element of it, which was amazing to see. And then we got the personal story as well, didn't we, of James Jones and baby Jude.
I've started fiddling with this spoon now, this little hotel room spoon. So I don't know. I've got distracted. Yes, very serious. Chloe Jones, James Jones, and baby Jude, and that was obviously kept very, very private at the time. And then it came out, and we shared that when it came out. And I think we spoke about it on a previous podcast with the detail we had, which was an Instagram post. Jude was born incredibly premature. Was he 5 or 6 months? It was very, very early. Chloe was in real jeopardy. Her life was in danger. Let's not sugarcoat it. She was in real jeopardy. And you can imagine James Jones was playing, and I just found it so surreal. Richie was talking about he went out there, and normally he looks over to where his family's sitting. His family weren't there. And he thought that's odd because normally they're always there. His dad and everyone. And anyway, they weren't there. And he scored that day against Aldershot. And so he was celebrating on the pitch, and next minute, Parky ushers him over and says, and you get that audio, you get that moment where we didn't hear that substitution at the time. We didn't know what had gone on, and you hear Parky just say, "Your old man's outside," and something's happened. Something's not right. Your missus is in a bad way. You need to go now. Grab your stuff and go. And obviously, like, we were winning in the game, but I genuinely believe, and I want to believe, and I will believe that in that moment, I really don't think Parky cared too much about the football at that moment. It was just a get him off. The dad clearly hasn't had to go into detail. It's very serious, way more important than football. Hopefully you respect that, which obviously you did. And before I delve a bit deeper into the actual episode, Rich, it really struck me that, and I don't want to go, blow too much smoke up Parky's behind, because I know that the actual issues have rested with the players. But you think, as a manager, we talk about man management all the time. He's overseen Anthony Ford have an extended spell out with his wife suffering with a brain tumour, which now she's hopefully on the mend for, and Ryan Reynolds got involved, and we've been over all of that. But that was very topical and very emotional for everyone at the club. We then had the James Jones situation with the premature birth of Jude, who now Jude is doing great and was very cute on the dock. And then you've had other things like, relatives that have passed, Mullin's granddad and
Jordan Davis as well.
Jordan Davis, Arthur, who sadly passed away. Yeah. There's been so much that it doesn't hit the football headlines and maybe doesn't get spoken about as widely. And it isn't our business. But when you see it in the doc, that simple interaction, James Jones, who comes across as such a mild-mannered guy, and you see him sort of explaining it and how his son was hooked up to a load of wires and ventilators. Obviously, that is going to cause panic in a new father. And simultaneously, his partner is in a really bad way. And you can imagine that football was the furthest thing from my mind. He just scored against Aldershot, and that high, no one was there. And yeah, I have to say I paused it in the airport and I watched it when I got home because I was very emotional. I'm an emotional old soul now, Rich. I'm the more I grow, the more emotional I become. Well, so I was very choked up.
Well, if they taught you one thing at Scouts, mate, it's to be an emotional 21st century metrosexual man. There's no harm in that and no shame in that whatsoever. And again, if people do need to talk, then you got Dragon. Sorry, what the
Dragon Chat? Yeah.
So what is? Yeah, Dragon Chat, sorry. Yeah,
you're right.
Got Dragon Chat, the club run, where you can be that. And of course, if you need anything from myself or Nathan, you get in contact with the podcast. But you made a good point there, Nathan. We do often say this, and we've said it for a long time, particularly when we were maybe more of a non-league club, that these are just normal guys. And certainly pre-takeover, you'd still idolise the players in the same way you do now, but they felt even more sort of just, these are normal human beings. Like, they go home, their next door neighbours don't know they're a footballer, they don't have fancy cars, they're just guys who have a very good talent, and this is the way they make their money. And even now you get that with the squad, and seeing the doc as well does remind you that we talk about these players and we evaluate their performances, and we speak about them as if they are these robotic people. They're football players, that's what they are. They're these products. But these are young men who are going through a lot of really tough issues, and we think about our day-to-day life. When we're distracted or we've got other things going on, our work suffers. So for these players to have to deal with that as well, deal with it under the scrutiny of being Wrexham players now as well, where you are a celebrity and everything you do gets, clickbaited and gets churned out into a news story now, to have that sort of scrutiny on you, it just shows what a good job that Phil Parkinson is doing. Like you said there, Nath, in modern football, so much of it now is about man management. It's about keeping people happy. It's about just managing these personalities and these people. What makes some people tick? What do some people need? Do they need an arm around the shoulder? Do they need to be motivated by criticism, by constructive criticism? And like you said, this is obviously all about baby Jude. It's all about James and his family. But there is a lot to be said there about Phil Parkinson, that we've got such a talented manager overseeing these young men, and obviously on the women's side as well. Obviously, we've not seen, we've seen a lot of their stories shared as well, which have been very emotional and very, very open. So, yeah, it's just that reminder really of the work that's being done, and that we as football fans can sometimes get sucked into this ulterior universe where you are critical of people and you think that they don't have the same lives as you, but of course they do.
I don't know if this was deliberate, but and we haven't seen the rest of the series, so we don't know if better is yet to come. But there's an award, I think, to be won for that episode that we saw the other day, because I gave it top marks, because you had at one end the oldest Wrexham fan in Arthur Massey, 100, who's seen probably Tommy Bamford, Joey Jones, all the way to Paul Mullin in the current lot. And you've got Rob McElhenney in his home. Rob getting choked up, that it reminded him, I think Arthur said he'd lived there for 74 years. A total inspiration to all of us. Imagine watching Wrexham that long, Rich, and just everything you've seen the club go through, the highs of being in Europe and the Bamford era and now the Rob and Ryan era, and just, amazing moment. And then at the other end, you essentially had Wrexham's newest fan in Jude, who was days old, hours old, fighting for his life, and will now be, synonymous with Wrexham, wherever his birth, whatever his story goes on to be, it will be. He's a fighter, and he was in Wrexham and in the Miler, and obviously then went to a specialist unit in Bolton. But it was, part of the story, and I just loved. I know it was temporary, and they talked about that, but that episode will be permanent. And that's really cliche. I've just said that, but that episode will be permanent, and will be something that I go back to watching. I don't go back and watch the whole documentary. I watch certain episodes. I watched the episode of the FA Cup when we played Sheffield United at home, and that speech by Ryan, I just think is fabulous. One of my favourite moments. And this one, I will go back and watch it again. I want to watch it again and try and keep my scout honour and keep my emotions in check this time. But what I will do, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to share my screen now to show you the fundraiser. But if you're just listening, there is a fundraiser being done for Chloe Jones, or for the whole family really, and everything they can do. So, Rich, can you see this? You can. £16,751 at the time of recording of a £20,000 target, which Chloe Jones is organising to help the Miler and just give back to the people that help them, help her and Jude. Rob and Ryan have donated £10,000. Jordan, Ollie Palmer, you and the Kitman. Loads of people have got involved. There's been over 190 donations, 195 donations actually, in fact. We're going to put something in as well. After this episode, we're going to put the link in the description of the YouTube and in the Spotify and all over. And I know it's a tough time. I know everyone's going through it with various things, and there's so many things we need and want to plug each week. But this is very important and very timely. And, we're all rooting for Jude. He's looked very, very happy on the dock and as carefree as kids should be. So, we're going to give our little small token. Rob and Ryan have been brilliant and giving 10,000 towards that 20,000 donation. I think we can help get that target filled in no time. So if you can give anything, do it. It's it would mean everything to James, Chloe, and the family. So just give in. We're going to put the link in the description, as I said, in YouTube and on Spotify and everywhere else. So no excuses if you can't find it.
Double promotion, double promotion, double promotion, double promotion.
So, Nath, I guess to end this week's podcast, we had some interesting emails again this week, and there's one in particular that is of interest to anyone listening to this podcast in Wrexham who is free this weekend. We were contacted by Smari Gunn. Okay, Smari Gunn is an Icelandic documentary maker. He directed the feel-good football documentary The Home Game. This film has been compared to Welcome to Wrexham, given that it sort of mixes on-field and off-field issues and the community aspect of football. It has won multiple audience awards at film festivals around the world, and at the latest Glasgow Film Festival, it had the highest audience score. This is the Home Game from an Icelandic film director. Like we said, comparisons to Welcome to Wrexham. The Home Game is a heartwarming story about Icelander Kari Vidarsson, who attempts to finish his father's failed dream to get one home game with a team of misfits on the unused football field his father made in the middle of a lava field in their village 25 years ago. And the reason we are mentioning it on the podcast is because it can be seen this weekend at the Odeon in Wrexham. That is Sunday, the 2nd of June at 10:45 a.m. as part of the Walgoch Football Fan Festival, which is the Red Wall. Again, some more vocabulary for you. If you want to see the film, he says, just Google, the Walgoch Football Festival. Like I said, it's Odeon this weekend. He said, we would love it if you could spread the word in any capacity to local Wrexham fans, and it would, of course, be lovely to see us if we can go. There will also be a Q&A after the screening. He's very much looking to visiting Wrexham and the racecourse for the first time. So if you are around in Wrexham this weekend, then you can go watch The Home Game from an Icelandic documentary maker, which sounds like good fun. And there is a link to that as well, which we might put in at some point, or maybe even get him on in the weeks ahead to discuss it and what he made of Wrexham itself. But yeah, keep the emails coming, RobRyanRed@gmail.com. And of course, as always, RobRyanRed on all the socials. We also got a great email this week, which the biggest compliment to pay to you, Alexander Decker, is your email is so good and in-depth that I actually don't think we've got time to talk about right now, because he's offered up basically his own loyalty program.
Love it.
Sort of going forward of how what he believes to be a very fair way, and I do agree with lots of the points he makes. He talks about getting different points based on how far away the drive is, points based on when you became your season ticket holder, although we discussed last week or the week before the difficulties of that because the club only have detailed figures for the last 2 or 3 seasons. So there's lots of good stuff in there, Alexander. We do really appreciate the email. We will get back to you on email as well, and maybe we will answer it in a future podcast as well. But like we said, going forward, if you have got anything you would like to discuss, please just let us know on RobRyanRed, and hopefully in the weeks ahead, Nick, we're working on some pretty exciting interviews, aren't we, that hopefully if they come off should be worth these quiet weeks.
Yeah, well, we're hoping, aren't we? But certain people just want to have a break, a well-earned break, and we're more than happy to extend that to them. And people say this is a shorter podcast this week. It is because very little has happened, but also I've got to spend most of my time working on Rich's legal defence. As his designated lawyer, I can't be sparing too much time for a podcast. So here I am in Sardinia, sun setting, no, it's been good. Look, I mean, the big talking point this week from Wrexham is they relayed the pitch for the 3rd time. So hopefully this one sticks.
I mean, we did gloss over that, but that is quite a big point, isn't it? Because I mean, there was a joke in series 1 and 2 of the doc maybe about that. About, was it the Dutch grass basically we'd bought in that didn't take too kindly, and we had to relay it again.
Yeah. Didn't take.
I mean, common practice for the very top elite teams would be to relay your pitch every summer, wouldn't it? Really, that's what the very top teams do. But at League One level, does feel like quite a bougie expense, doesn't it?
I mean, great word, bougie, for a start. But yeah, bougie expense. It's you want to hope that this will just last the entire season, though. And if it does well in League One, I don't know. I think it's probably not been in the plan to rip it up and start again 3 times. But there we go. They're looking at, what did they say, undersoil heating. I got that wrong, and I did get a comment about, did I call it Sunday brunch or Saturday brunch? I got it wrong, whatever I said.
Sunday brunch, yeah.
I think I said Saturday brunch. There you go. So I got it wrong. But yeah, to relay the pitch, that was the big talking point of the week. Parky's on his holidays, very much enjoying probably us flounder our way through 35 minutes. But no, look, We'll be back very, very soon. I'm very looking forward. I know people have reached out about helping with the website. That's good. I'm sure Rich or myself has already come back to you, but if not, we will. I just need to stop being on my travels, really, because it's not. Is this suiting me? This look of maybe slightly tan, probably not tan, and fancy my formal gear all the time. I don't know. Maybe it is.
Yeah, it's good. We'll let listeners see, though. The comment section below, if you're watching on YouTube, what do you make
There
of
you go.
Nathan's lawyer look? Thank you very much, as always, for joining us on Rob Ryan Red. As always, a massive thank you to Red 10 People Development. Without them, we simply couldn't do the podcast. And thank you as well to Wrexham-based band Hypnotic for allowing us to use their music, The Stings, in the show. As always, Rob Ryan Red on all the socials. Take care, and we will see you again next time.